Hello everyone, welcome to my 1cc commentary review of Space Moth Lunar Edition. I believe this is the first time Space Moth has appeared on the channel, even though I've talked about it and played it quite a bit over the years, funnily enough. If you all remember Shmup Slam 1, and many of you will not, I did that on my Twitch channel back in the day, and the video is not actually on YouTube. I have it on a hard drive. I may upload it, but I kind of have held off on that because it's a little bit less polished than the other Shmup Slams. But anyway, I actually played Space Moth DX in that, and I got a live clear of it in that. But outside of that, I also did a review of Space Moth DX on my website. So the archive is still there if you want to check out the archive of the review. And what's cool is I wasn't just talking about Space Moth in that article. I was also giving it as an example to show my philosophy of reviewing shmups. And so if you want to kind of know where my shmup reviewing philosophy came from, that article could be a really helpful place to go and read to understand that. And so when Space Moth Lunar Edition was announced, I was actually pretty dang excited because I have quite a bit of a history with the game, and something about it really charms me in a way that isn't fully rational, to be honest. I do know that obviously its stylings of being bug themed is heavily inspired by Mushihimesama, and I am a big fan of Mushi. But even outside of that, I don't know, it's kind of like surreal sort of style and calming music. I don't know, something all about it kind of I enjoy, though I will say the music could be polished up a bit. But in my original review of Space Moth, I had a lot of points that I thought were really solid. Like, I think the main gameplay idea and loop is solid. I think the draining system is kind of a cool idea for scoring. I also really liked the way they did the sprite with the Space Moth. I really like the Space Moth player sprite and the hitbox being in the center there, and then you actually use the wings and everything to graze. Lots of really solid, cool concepts, and just the feel of it, you can tell it was inspired by Cave, and it's kind of going for that, but it has its own flavor. But there were some issues I had with the original Space Moth that I was hoping Lunar Edition would address, and some of them are addressed and others aren't. I'd say one of the main flaws of Space Moth and Space Moth DX is the difficulty of the game, where it is just a little bit too easy, a little bit too much on the easy side, even when you play hard mode. But it's still a fun entry-level bullet hell style shmup. So I'll say if you're looking to get into bullet hells, you're looking for a nice entry-level one to go with, Space Moth is a good way to go. The other concern that I had with the original is the death animations and sort of just overall animations and visual presentation of the game, because some of the animations were just a little bit too underwhelming as far as when you'd kill things, you'd have this sort of static blood splatter, and sometimes the static blood splatter would be like too small for the enemy sprite, so you could still see the enemy sprites just sort of pop out of existence. Right there. There's an example of that here on this one. That one they made them a little bigger. In Lunar Edition, I noticed they did improve the death animations. Like, they will mostly cover the sprite up when they pop out of existence. But I still think it's a bit of a weak point of the game. And if the developers ever wanted to patch something, I would still recommend patching in more elaborate, more exciting death animations. Because you see, like, these bugs here, they're just sort of popping out of existence. Not bad, but I just think the game would really benefit from more elaborate explosions and everything. It's a little bit too static, in my opinion. Another issue that I had with the original Space Moth DX that is, I can't tell if it's improved on or not because my memory isn't that good, but the soundtrack of the original Space Moth, while kind of surreal and interesting, I felt like could have been improved. It could have been a little bit more driving, had more bass going on, had just more to it. You know, it feels a little incomplete. And I think Space Moth DX for the most part, or Space Moth Lunar Edition for the most part, keeps that same soundtrack. So I still think it could be improved and sort of just beefed up a little bit. But now let's talk about the big differences between Lunar Edition and DX. One, the visual presentation of the stages. I actually like the way Lunar Edition looks quite a bit better than the original, because the nighttime stages and the stage layouts and stuff, they look more distinctive this time around. They're easier to tell apart from one another. you feel like you're more of on a journey on this one than in the original. So I did like the switch in the visual presentation of the game. And then of course the gameplay system of Lunar is definitely overhauled. So the way it worked in the original Space Moth is you would shoot stuff with your rapid shot and it would drain them like you're seeing here and turn them black. That would give them more aggressive patterns, and then you would kill them with your laser to get the full point value or whatever you'd call it. And you'd go through and you'd kind of chain the stages like that, and it's a fun scoring mechanic because it's basically the classic risk reward. Do you take more risks draining them, which will give you more points, but in doing so will put you in more danger, or do you play strictly for survival and just point blank and kill everything? I thought the game had always done a really good job with that. Another thing that I really like about Lunar Edition over the original is the inclusion of this bullet absorb canceling mechanic. So the way it works is when you're doing rapid shot and not concentrated shot, you will gain meter. And when you gain meter here, you'll see this field appear around you. And then you have a button that you can activate that will start to absorb enemy bullets, and you collect them for score. And so the idea in these stages is to do lots of rapid shots and draining, and in doing that you will just naturally gain this bullet canceling, and you can add that into your score routing. I think that's a really nice addition that complements the existing scoring system of the game. I really like that. But it's also really useful in boss fights because you can take a little bit of a risk in a boss fight by rapid shooting where you're not doing damage or anything, but you are gaining meter that you can use then to cancel bullets either for score or even for survival. So I really liked this system. I liked and then also it allowed them to add more bullets to the screen, make this screen a little bit more hectic and chaotic with the bullet patterns and everything. And I really appreciated that. So these two editions I like a lot. One thing that I don't like about Lunar Edition as compared to DX, and I hope, maybe they could adjust this or look into it or I don't know what, is I don't like the changes they made to the alternative ship. I can't remember what it's called, like the Warhawk or something. The non-Space Moth ship. Because the way it works is in DX, Space Moth DX, that ship is just OP. And it's really good, and it's actually a hidden ship. And once you have that ship unlocked, why would you ever play Space Moth anymore? And I really enjoyed that ship type in that game. In this game, they brought it in as a sort of alternative style ship like Palm and Futari, something like that. But the thing about it is, I think it's just nerfed severely compared to Space Moth, so it's like reversed. In the original Space Moth DX, you would play the Hawk ship because it's just better. And in this one, you just play Space Moth because the Hawk ship just feels a lot worse. It's slower. It has a little bit of a improved damage output, I think, but it's not significant enough to justify the lower speed, I would say. But the big problem with it, though, even outside of all that, is its special. Because Space Moth's special is just a lot better. So the way it works is with Space Moth, when you're in your cancel mode, your cancel field that's around you just follows you around. So you can fly up to stuff, point blank it protects you. It's just really versatile and useful. With the Hawk, though, you sort of cast it in an area, and it kind of just hangs out in that area. And on paper, that seems like kind of a cool idea, like Garega with Gain's bomb. But the problem is just, I think it ends up being a lot weaker and a lot less effective than the Moth's cancel field. So in my opinion, at least, I really enjoy playing the Moth a lot more this time around. And so maybe they can make some adjustments to that, or maybe I just need to get used to it. And not all ships are equal in shmups, so maybe I could just try playing a weaker ship for more difficulty or something. Or just play it without using the casting field as much. But just a note, if you're playing this game for the first time, that the Moth ship I think is better this time around. So you can see me here going ahead and getting the drains and cancels. A fun little trick you can do to kind of cheese the scoring system with these larger enemies is you can damage them initially with the laser and then drain them with the shot and then finish them off with the laser. So you have a little bit of a less... So you can actually kill them a bit faster doing that method than just purely draining and killing them. At least that's how it seems to me. I could be off there. Gotta like these bullet patterns. I love the little drawings of the enemies, like the way they look and everything. I just wish they were a little bit more animated than they are. You know, they feel pretty static in their movements, and maybe it's because they had to animate static images that they came across, or maybe they just didn't. I don't know what exactly the styling is there, but like this frog, for example, his mouth is animated, but I think it'd be cool if the entire sprite was animated. He doesn't have to do all kinds of crazy stuff, but he kind of just could step around and shuffle a little bit. I think those kinds of details do add a bit more immersion to the gameplay. Makes it also feel a bit more polished. I'm one to talk House of Bullets. You know, I have no sprite artist. Everything I do is, I'm kind of doing this sort of stuff myself, but still, I would not deny that that would be a much better direction to go if it's possible. And sometimes it isn't with lower, smaller budget games and everything, and I do understand that, but it is what it is. So I went ahead and soul drained the boss. This is one of the funner bosses in the game, I would say. Just a nice classic bullet hell pattern, almost like a Touhou boss, really. And you see that timer in the top right. The way it works is, I believe, if I remember correctly, if you let that timer drain and then you kill it before it hits 0, like at 1 or 2, just right before it's 0, that's where you get the maximum bonus for the timer on the bosses. So the game kind of incentivizes you to learn the boss patterns and not speed kill them because of that timer mechanic, which is pretty cool. It's like the opposite of Ketsui, basically. And you can start point blanking people really comfortably when you have that field up, because you can point blank them, and then if you feel in danger, you can pop up the field and get the bullet cancels. Really fun stuff. This bullet pattern here took me a minute to get used to. It's interesting that a lot of these larger enemies, when you kill them, it doesn't actually cancel their bullet patterns like in Futari. So in Futari, what would happen is if you kill these larger enemies, their bullets would also cancel. But in this game, they don't. Their bullets remain on screen. Kind of reminds me a bit of Dodonpachi. Dodonpachi is kind of like that. So you have to be aware. I think that was a manual bomb. Yes, there is an auto bomb mechanic, but it's a little bit funky in how it works, and I can't remember exactly how it works. But I do know you can get an auto bomb somehow. Either by having enough bombs or by not be lasering or something. There's some sort of auto bomb conditions that I can't quite recall. But when you get an auto bomb, it uses up all your bombs. So I think you need to have 3 or something like that anyway. So there I'm getting damaged in. Also, you'll see that thing on the ground, the little necklace. In addition to the other scoring mechanics, there's also a treasure sort of metal scoring mechanic, like in Dodonpachi, the bees, you know, something like that. These mushrooms are putting out some pretty thick patterns, but just patience, and you use that, see how powerful that drain is, or that cancel is. You can just absolutely obliterate enemies with it. I liked that explosion because it was a little bit meatier and it had a different explosion sound effect, which I think is cool. There we go. I'm doing quite a bit of scoring here, honestly, with the soul draining. Taking out the flowers. These guys are a little bit funky and they have a lot of health, so I don't think I'm draining them because I want to stay on top of it. I was mostly playing to survive, but I actually ended up getting a pretty solid score in the end, I think. And this might be the highest scoring replay of the game on YouTube right now. I wasn't seeing a lot of gameplay of it, so could be. Definitely possible. No online leaderboards, and I think that's unfortunate. I think in today's age, you should really try to put online leaderboards in your shmups. I really believe that. One way or another, try and get it built into the game, because I think external leaderboards have been proven over time just not to be the direction people are going to go. I think having it built into the game is what you want. So I'd strongly encourage that. Uncovered the treasure there. I think this stage gets a little bit redundant here at the end, where it feels like, wait, am I looping this stage? I think that end section there could have been different, you know, set enemies or something to make it stand out a bit. Here we go. The boss fight. This is a fun boss fight. Another spider. What's really, so this is very Touhou. This is, I'm pretty sure there's a Touhou pattern like this in either Perfect Cherry Blossom or Imperishable Nights, one of these types of Touhous, those middle Touhous. There's a pattern just like this, where it spits out these knives, and you have to sort of navigate your way because they slow down at the end. This is a fun pattern. I really liked it a lot. And I'm playing pretty damn well this replay. There's a bomb. I'm sitting there doing the rapid shot, not because I'm stupid, but because by doing the rapid shot, you gain that cancel, right? And that's what we're looking for. Rather than doing the concentrated, you get a little extra damage, but getting that nice cancel really comes in handy. The pattern here is opening up really conveniently. There's a pattern sort of like this in Mushihimesama, actually. I think it's stage 3, final pattern, stage 3. There we go. Boss down. We are cooking. We were sitting on 2 extends. I think we're going to get a 3rd here. And the final boss, the final stage, really ratchets up the difficulty, so you need to be prepared resource-wise. And I believe this is the final stage. So here we go, doing a bunch of rapid shot. You can cancel those for points, but I wanted to really get a juicy cancel in on this guy. Definitely did so. Again, don't assume that it's going to cancel because it's not. This guy I was a little bit scared the first time. I think I start soul draining the later ones. We'll see. Here we go. Yeah, I soul drained that one. That one, soul draining it isn't too bad. It adds that little extra wave in there, the pink wave, but not too bad. It's only when you really get them stacked that it becomes scary. Point blank, soul drain, point blank. Here we go. Switch to rapid. Now these guys. These guys actually have a lot of HP. They're like little walls. So I don't think I soul drained them this time around because I didn't feel like getting myself trapped in the corner. Yeah, this row of people goes on a bit. Another criticism of mine is when you have enemies that take that much damage and are that sort of static on screen for that period of time, I would recommend adding in some sort of damage flash, a more exaggerated damage flash animation, or like sparks that come off them. Just something to make the game feel a little less static. Because when you're sitting there and you're just lasering this guy like that for a long time, you end up feeling like the game's a little bit... It's hard to just find the word for it, but a little bit plain. It needs a little bit more zazz when it comes to damaging the enemies. Sorry if you're hearing noises in the background. My neighbors are doing something. Here we go. Get the cancel. Now we're flying up into the sky, fighting UFOs. Odd theme transition, I would say. But you know, space. You know, it's Space Moth, so I guess that's in keeping now that I think about it. The space element of the moth. We've been fighting the bugs the whole time. Now we got to fight the aliens. Take them out. You know, I think they could have done something a little bit more with that theme, because they do bring the spaceships here in at the end, but maybe they could have done a bit more space theme stuff in the early stages. That way it's not as odd of a transition. I mean, it makes sense with the name Space Moth, but it's something to think about at least. So these guys, just go ahead and cancel them. This is just squeezing through the bullets. I really like the hitboxes in this game. They feel very well balanced. They're not overly small to the point where you're just sliding through bullet patterns, but it's not big and chunky where you're getting clipped where you shouldn't. They did an excellent job with the hitboxes. Here we go, final boss, and I had 3 extends. This boss is definitely a massive difficulty jump over the other bosses, and I was very happy with how well that I played this time around as far as dodging this pattern. I think I take a miss or 2, but I was doing a lot more dodging than I was expecting. And if you're wondering, this is very Touhou-like as well, because the way this boss works is you don't damage it. I remember the first time I was playing, I was like, where's the health bar? What the hell's going on? There is no health bar. Instead, you just got to time out the boss, and you see the timer in the top right corner, like you get in some TLB situations in Touhou. So I do think it's kind of an interesting choice to have you time out the final boss. These bullets bouncing off the back, that is brutal. I've always struggled with bullets that reflect and bounce off like that, but I was really pleased with how well I'm dodging this. I was finding that left corner there pretty consistently good place to start doing things. Now what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start bombing. And the reason why is because the bombs still eat up time and they give you a bunch of invulnerability. So even though there's nothing to damage, they're still incredibly useful for this boss because they eat up time. So I'm sitting on one more bomb. I had one miss on the final boss. I think I was trying to extend it to one miss. Here we go. And we made it. Hello, I'm going to dub in some of my final comments here because the neighbors were making so much noise it bled into what I was saying. But basically what I was saying is that I do recommend the game, though if you are a top tier bullet hell player, a Jamers type, I don't know if this game is going to interest you because the difficulty level might be a little bit too low for you. But if you're looking for a really solid entry level shmup into the genre, Space Moth Lunar Edition is definitely on my recommended list. I've had a lot of fun playing it over the years. Maybe there's some connection I have with it beyond what other people may have for whatever reason, but I do like the game quite a bit, and there's nothing jank, nothing weird about it. And also, one thing that I do think they should do, though, this is my constructive feedback, is there are things about Space Moth DX that I still like, especially the hidden ship and all of that. So I would wish that they actually bundled them together. So when you buy Space Moth Lunar Edition, you can swap over into DX mode and just bring them together, because having them sold separately, people aren't going to do that. It's like selling different versions of a fighting game, basically. Even though this is an upgrade, an expansion, I think you should bring in the DX version as well and have them one package together so that you can swap between the two, because playing DX mode is also still fun. And so that would be my final suggestion, is that you bring them together, make them one solid package. But thanks so much for tuning in. It's a really fun game. Adios, everyone.
So thank you to the $5 patrons, 100 Dingo, Another Joe, Anthony A, Anthony Iodice, Aaron Solis, Asa Davis, Ben, Borgie22, Brian Shiver, Chris Yusufovich, Chronic Burnout 3, Cook Some Soup, Corey Mark, Des Audio, Darkwing, Darren Griffin, Delta Tango 6, Disco Star Slayer, DJ 420 Praise It, Eric H, FCK Full Set, Retro Schmupper Hausu, Kiwi, JLab, JB RPG, Jim Knockham, Joe Angelo, John Kelly, Jolts, Game Boy Guru, K, K2, Kikoman 589, Larage, Malaise, Mark Toms, Maz, Megadeth 859, Minung, Mechalin, Michael Stern, Mitch LY, Nathaniel Davis, and Electron, Neon Dagger Games, Oakla Kugels, Philip Mason, Plasmo, Portal 63, Rattlecat, Raoul, Real Skeen, Riff Mason, Rolf, Scanline City, 7 Overdose, Shane Sintiansky, Shmup Junkie, The Boot Rex, The Real Ikuzo, The Dirty Screech, DN1, The Old Benster, TRM, Sugumo, Twilight, and Utakaya. Thanks for watching.